Skyrush is an Intamin hypercoaster located at Hersheypark in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I recently got the opportunity to ride this attraction, and I'll be giving my full in-depth thoughts during this video. Starting with the basics, we have a height of 200 feet with a drop having an 85-degree angle and reaching a top speed of 75 miles an hour. The ride travels through 3,600 feet of track with different elements such as an overbank and just pure ejector airtime hills. For this video, I'm going to be doing it with a pros and cons method since there's so much to talk about and not a lot of time to talk about it. Alright, so starting with the first thing you come across when you go and try to ride Skyrush, the logo. Now, I think this is my least favorite logo on a roller coaster. I just hate it so much and I have no idea why. The logo really just kind of sucks. Now, that's definitely not everything, but I just hate this logo and felt like they could have done so much more with it. Now we're looking at the first pro, the speed the line moves. Now, I visited the park during dark nights and the day after Memorial Day. Now, the Memorial Day visit, I had fast lane, so I don't really count that. But during my dark nights visit, Storm Hunter had like a 4-hour line. So you can imagine how busy it actually was. The queue for Skyrush was about half full, and it maybe took us 30 minutes to get on the ride, which is really good for the guests. The next thing you'll come across is the station, and the station isn't really anything. I know Hershey isn't really known for their theming, but they could have at least added something to make it look nice. Now, I don't know what that something is, but they probably could have thought of something. The next con of the ride is the restraints. I know everybody hates these restraints, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but I don't really mind them. But I know a lot of people that do, so that's why I put it as a con. When you dispatch, you start to go up the lift hill, and holy crap, you go up fast. It might as well be called a launch, because you're in like 5 seconds, you're at the top of the lift hill. It's insane. And then this is where the next pro comes. The first drop. This has to be one of the best first drops on the planet. It is my personal favorite, beating out rides like Steel Vengeance, ElToroRyan, and Fury 325. But you get yanked out of your seat, and then somehow yanked again, but more aggressively. It is insane. The next thing to love is the two elements right after the first drop. The two back-to-back pure ejector airtime hills. These hills are the definition of perfect airtime moments. The ejector is so sustained and powerful. The turn in between the elements is pretty forceful too. Sometimes I gray out, sometimes I don't. But you know the ejector is good when your shirt starts coming up. And mine comes up every single ride. You then enter another forceful turn that leads into the next element to love, the Overbank. This is probably my second favorite Overbank, followed by multiple found on Steel Vengeance. The whip you get on this is absolutely ridiculous. If you sit on a wing seat, you get ejected and thrown to the side at the same time. It sort of reminds me of the first element on Fury, as they both eject you to the side, but of course that one being a lot bigger and faster, which leads you into a right-hand turn and into the next element to love, the twisted airtime hill. It gives even more whip and ejector than the Overbank, and once again, if you're in a wing seat, it's even better. You then level out and go straight into a pure ejector airtime hill, which again is another element to love. I know it sounds like this is a perfect roller coaster, but we'll get to the issues in a minute. Back to this airtime hill, it's sort of like the two bigger ones you experienced earlier in the ride, but this one is more aggressive but less sustained. There's also a trim break on the hill that you don't really notice unlike other rides. Candemonium, I'm looking at you. You then go into the only dull moment of the ride, this turn that's just taken way too slow. I don't know if this is because of the trim or how high they had to build the brake run, but this turn is just taken way too slow. But then you just glide into the brakes to end your ride on Skyrush. And this is where the cons start. I know it sounds weird and like, how can cons start at the end of the ride? Just hear me out. So the way the station is set up, you enter and exit on the same side, which leads to longer dispatches, which isn't terrible. But if the restraints come down during your ride, it can really hurt sitting on the brake run while they dispatch a train. Another flaw I would say is that the ride is just a little too short. It's not like unbelievably short like Twisted Cyclone or something, but I feel like one or two elements could have gone a long way. Another thing to hate is the rattle. Now the rattle isn't terrible, but it can affect your ride. When I went to Hershey with my friends, that was their #1 complaint, that the ride was just rough. My dad also said the same thing, which I found really interesting. I personally don't think it's that rough, but if you want a smoother ride, just don't sit on the wing seat. You won't get that extra whip or the wing experience, but you will get a smoother ride. So, for Skyrush's final score, I am going to be giving it a 10 out of 10. Now you might be like, what? Why a 10? You just mentioned so many flaws, it should get a lower score. Now, yes, I did just mention flaws, but they don't particularly bother me as much as other people. Like, I don't mind the rattle or the restraints, and the only real flaw to me is that last turn, but the other elements are so amazing, so that's why it is getting a 10.